Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Blue Dolphin with the Hoplite Security channel. Today, we're going to be jumping into the Codify Hack the Box machine. It's an easy rated machine. Let's get into it. Starting off at a high level, we'll be enumerating the Codify.hackthebox machine, where we'll learn about a web application. We'll do some manual reading through the slash applications, limitations, about us, and VM2 application pages. From there, we're going to find that they have an application sandbox, that it's built on JS and it's hosted in a VM2 instance. We'll do some research, play around with it, and learn that we can execute commands. And while there is blacklisting in place, we are able to get around that and ultimately execute a reverse shell where we'll then do some enumeration on the host, find a tickets database that will crack, find a hash, which is of course a password, and we'll switch users. From there, once we're on the box, we will do some internal enumeration for privilege escalation techniques. We will find the sudo permissions are calling a script. That script is a MySQL backup.sh script. It's a custom script, and we'll learn that there's a kind of a poor code, or some would say a vulnerability, where the password check of this script is actually a string comparison. So we can write a script to just compare characters constantly till we get the password. And I asked ChatGPT to write that script for me and help me out ultimately. Other than that, let's get started. All right, running Nmap, pretty straightforward. You can see we have our 3 standard ports. Let's try and get a little more information here by using some more advanced Nmap commands, and then maybe what web. Taking a look at the results here, we can see that we over port 22, of course, there's our SSH key connection, which will be for later. Then on port 80, we have Apache running HTTP daemons, which, and it looks like Codify's our HTTP title and codify.htb, and that's running on Node.js Express framework. All right, well, let's go check out the website. Okay, so you can see here it's a Node.js test sandbox application area. So if we hit try it now, this is going to bring us to an area where we can start passing code. Looking around the machines a little more, there's something interesting here. The limitations page actually shows the kind of the blacklist and whitelisting. You can see here, restricted modules, child process, and FS. So virtually a lot of the more critical code that we would want to execute to establish persistence would require child process for the purpose of creating that like web shell or reverse shell. FS is going to be file. This is a file library. So if we wanted to like read the flags or anything or SSH keys, we would need this. Whitelist. I don't think I really use that or it was helpful. Let's take a look at the About Us page. So we can see here what's key is that under About our code editor, it shows here there's the VM2 library and it's a sandbox JavaScripting tool. So ultimately, we're going to be finding a VM2 or just researching VM2 sandbox escaping. But let's jump over to our editor here and just try passing some code. Okay, so I have a Node.js reverse shell here. I haven't put anything in it. It's just a single quote from CLI because it's just not going to work. I just want to give an example here. It's just going to say unexpected string. So we don't really get anything here, but we know that, of course, there are blacklists on this process here where it says child process. So this isn't going to work. So let's go ahead and take a look at what does work. All right, so this is the reverse shell that I used. I had to look around online, eventually came across a GitHub page where I found a reverse shell that calls bash and does not use the child process library. So if we go ahead and execute this, it should work. Let me just copy this. I have my listeners you just saw there. My mouse is disappearing. There we go. So it says object, and I did not run the reverse shell. Let's try it again. Object, and there we go. So we have access here. You can see if we type ID there. So this was just a simple challenge. There was no actual like sandbox escaping. I did go down that rabbit hole. It was just as simple as executing code on the host. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the next stage and move horizontally. Okay, so you'll see here we are in the var www contacts directory, and there is a tickets database. So if we cat this tickets database, we're going to get a hash. You can see here there's the name Joshua and a hash right below where it says username, password. But more importantly, if you look at the top, we can see it's a ticket table that uses SQLite. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this. Oh, and there's a little note here that just talks about setting this site up locally and then setting it up on my own computer. And Tom Hanks needs some networking modules, blah, blah, blah. What's important here is that we copy this hash, Joshua # hash here. So let's go ahead and copy this. All right, so for some reason, my hash is not loading. However, the password will be SpongeBob1 after you pass everything. And then that lets you jump back over to here and do, oh, and just so in case you're trying, I just called John and the word list on the hash file, and it worked originally, so I'm not sure what the deal is now, but you'll get the password SpongeBob1, and we can literally just go switch user Joshua SpongeBob1. And there we are. So now we're Joshua, and we're going to go ahead and upgrade this shell, but let's move on over to the final privilege escalation portion and become root. All right, before I do anything fancy, including upgrading my shell or trying to get linps over or any other privilege enumeration or persistent scripts, I always like to check sudo tacl. And for some reason, it actually didn't work. Let me upgrade my shell. All right, so for whatever reason, my sudo -l wasn't working, nor was my shell upgrade working. So in the name of time, I just want to keep things moving forwards here. But when you look at sudo tacl, you'll see that you can run opt scripts MySQL backup as sudo. And the important thing to notice here is when you do run it, it asks for a password, which let me demonstrate. All right, I just went ahead and connected via SSH here. I assume that's how I must have done this initially. So let's take a look at sudo -l together as we back up a few steps. So you can see here, you may run this as sudo. So we'll go sudo. Let's try running it, and you'll quickly see. Oh, I failed the password. Oh, I see. So we can't seem to call it. It wants the right. So you can see it wants the MySQL password for root. All right. So now if we go ahead and take a look at the script that we're trying to run here. So going through this script very quickly, line by line, we can see that the MySQL password for the database user is being read and the user password. And right here we have the database password, and it's checking if the password equals the user's password. And I guess the vulnerability here is that we've used double enclosures and an equal sign. So this is not actually comparing like a literal string. It's just, or sorry, it's not doing a proper byte comparison. It's just doing a string comparison. So it's not actually checking at like on a byte level. Like if like there's nothing's being passed to the stack saying, hey, this is the actual byte the user has inputted. Instead, it's just looking at the ASCII character and doing a comparison. And while that's fine and it'll work, the issue is we can constantly test to see if a string comparison is true or false in this case. I struggled with this. I had to look at the forums on Hack the Box to kind of figure it out. However, I ultimately used ChatGPT to come up with a script. And the script that it puts out just ultimately kind of rotates through, it iterates through over and over and over and over again and it tests every single character in the alphabet until it gets a hit, and then it continues going through this process over and over again. And you'll eventually get the password here. And let me just display that on the screen. You know what, for whatever reason, mine is not working, so I'm not going to dive into it too much, but you will actually get the flag here. Just look it up. So many people have posted scripts at this point because it is a retired machine. But yeah, that's just a really high level overview in under 10 minutes for this machine.